Deep inside a cave, far from sunlight, someone raises a hand against the wall. The flame is small. The ground is uneven. One wrong step could break a bone, and one dead flame could leave a person trapped in complete darkness. This was not a place for comfort, and few people would come here by accident. Then pigment moves around the fingers. When the hand pulls away, a shape remains on the stone. Not an animal, not a weapon, not food, just a human hand. Thousands of years later, that hand is still there. And the real mystery is not only who touched the wall. The real mystery is why anyone risked the dark to leave that mark behind. If you enjoy ancient human mysteries like this, subscribe for more stories about the survival instincts still living inside us. If survival was only about food, this mark should not exist. If survival was only about tools, this mark should not matter. A handprint could not feed a child, kill an animal, keep the group warm, or stop danger from waiting outside the cave. But ancient humans made them anyway. Again and again, in caves and rock shelters, they left hands on stone. Some were large, some were small, some were clear, some were strange, with missing or hidden fingers that still trouble researchers today. That is where the mystery begins. A handprint looks simple, but it was not random. It was placed, repeated, preserved, and for some reason, it mattered. In El Castillo Cave in Spain, researchers did not simply guess the age of the marks. The paint itself was difficult to date, so they looked at the thin mineral skin that had grown over it. If that mineral layer was already tens of thousands of years old, then the hand beneath it had to be older. One red hand stencil at El Castillo is at least about 37,000 years old. Nearby red discs are even older, at least about 40,000 years old. That means these were not casual marks left a few generations ago. They belong to a world so old that writing, farming, cities, and recorded names did not exist. Before humans wrote words, they were already leaving hands. The mistake is thinking these handprints were only decoration. Maybe they were art, but stopping there makes the story too small. For ancient humans, a mark on stone may have been tied to memory, identity, ritual, fear, or belonging. A handprint could say, "I was here." It could say, "This place matters." It could say, "Our people know this cave." We cannot know the exact meaning, and an honest answer has to admit that. But the repeated pattern tells us one thing clearly. These marks mattered enough for people to keep making them. The handprint may have been one of the earliest ways humans turned a dangerous place into a remembered place. And then the evidence gets more human. Researchers studying Paleolithic hand stencils in Europe have looked at hundreds of hand images across France, Spain, Italy, and the United Kingdom. Some hands appear large, but others are much smaller. Some may have belonged to children or young people. That changes the feeling of the cave wall. This was not only one mysterious hunter standing alone in the dark. In some places, the wall may preserve traces of different people inside the group. Adults, younger members, maybe even children taking part in something meaningful. So the wall was not only showing a person, it may have been showing participation. The group was not just surviving together, it was leaving evidence that it had been together. But then some hands become even harder to explain. At places like Gargas Cave in France, many hand stencils appear to have missing finger segments. For more than a century, researchers have argued over what that means. Were the fingers actually lost to injury, frostbite, disease, or violence? Were they folded down before pigment was blown around the hand? Were these signs, rituals, signals, or something else we no longer know how to read? We do not have a final answer. And that uncertainty is what makes the hands so haunting. A normal handprint feels like contact. A missing finger feels like a message we can see but cannot fully understand. The modern mind separates art from survival. Food is practical. Tools are practical. Shelter is practical. Images seem extra. But ancient life may not have worked that way. A mark could teach. A wall could hold memory. A cave could become a place where the group remembered who they were. In a world without writing, photographs, or permanent records, a handprint may have connected the living, the dead, and the children who would come later. Imagine a child seeing those hands by firelight. Some hands are larger than theirs. Some are smaller. Some are faded. Some overlap older marks. The wall quietly tells them, people like us came here before. That is not just emotion. In the ancient world, belonging could mean food, protection, warning, care, and survival. To be outside the group could mean death. This is where the handprint becomes more than a mark. It points to one of the oldest human fears, not just dying, but disappearing completely. A tool can break, a body can vanish, a name can be forgotten. But a hand on stone says something simple enough to survive time. Someone was here. Maybe that is why the image still reaches us. It does not need translation. It does not need a language. A hand is one of the first things we recognize as human. When we see it on ancient stone, we do not only see art, we feel another person trying not to disappear. Today, we still leave versions of the same mark. Children press painted hands onto paper. Families take photos. Travelers leave names on walls. People post proof that they were somewhere, with someone, at a moment that mattered. The tools changed, but the instinct stayed. We still want to leave a trace. We still want someone to know we were here. We still fear being erased. That may be why an ancient handprint feels so powerful. It is not only old, it is familiar. Now return to the cave one last time. The flame shakes against the wall. A person presses a hand to the stone, leaves the mark, and steps back into the dark. They do not know about museums. They do not know about archaeology. They do not know that thousands of years later, someone will still be looking at the shape of their hand. They only know the mark is there. Why did ancient humans leave hands in dark caves? Maybe it was art. Maybe it was ritual. Maybe it was memory. Maybe it was belonging. But beneath all of those possibilities is something deeply human, the need to leave a trace before we disappear. Prehistory did not disappear. It still lives every time we reach out, leave a mark, and hope someone, someday, understands that we were here.